You're watching Oddsbreaker. I'm Frank Trigg. That is Demetrious Johnson, DJ, getting ready to fight Joseph Benavidez, coming up here in the UFC. Another great fight, another great card put together by the UFC matchmakers, and it's finally getting to the point where the lighter guys are getting a lot of love now. The American fans and North American fans are starting to actually pay attention. For a while there, 125, no one really wanted to pay attention because it's small. You know, Americans like big, and you guys are small. You're teeny. It's just how it is. And you said from the very beginning, you better watch because we bring action the entire time. And there has not been a fight, not just yours, but the entire weight class that I can remember that's been a boring fight. Is that make it a little bit more dangerous for you as the champ, knowing that every guy you fight is going to bring it? Every single guy in the weight class. There's not that guy you know is going to be, oh, okay, tough, but he's going to slow the pace down a little bit. I can maintain it. Every guy you compete against tries to keep your pace the entire time.
Yeah, I'm excited. The weight class is getting bigger. It just means that there's a lot more work for me to do, whether I'm the champion or not the champion after December 14th. And I think, even when I fight at a bantamweight division, I was always fighting the best guys in the world. And they kept a high pace, but they're also bigger, but not as like flyweights do. And so for me, I'm just always training my butt off and trying to keep the highest pace in the flyweight division. And that's fine. I like a high paced fight and see who gasses out first.
There, I try to talk to Hume a little bit, but he's, you know how the master is. He just won't talk. He's very quiet. He's very secretive. But he did allude to that you guys do a lot of extra stuff cardio wise that he can't put anybody else through, really, like for that same pace, just because of the way that you're built. Your DNA system allows you to do not a lot more, because we're talking about the elite, but 2 to 3% more than everybody else in the room is a huge difference. And it's like he always has to think a lot to come up with new stuff to kind of keep throwing at you and keep the strength and conditioning coaches kind of off balance because they need to keep throwing more stuff at you to make you adapt because you learn so quickly and you adapt so fast. Do you notice that yourself? Is that something that Matt and you talk about, that hey, he's got to make up new stuff? Well, not make it up, but figure new stuff out for you to keep you at that cardio level because you just keep adapting so quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that he always tells me after my fights, because sometimes we have the same. I like schedule. I like to be on the same path that I did my last fight because I saw the results and it was good. And Matt says, well, we can't do it because one, your body's always adapting, your body's always changing, and you're still growing. You're only 27, and he said that we always had to keep mixing it up on you. And my body gets broken down. This has been the longest training camp I've had for a fight. I've been training since Bibiano was here when he was here for his fight at ONE FC. So when he was here, I worked all the time on my ground because he's a ground guy, working, getting up, working on passing, working on submissions. He left. Tim Boach came to town. I was working with Tim Boach when he was training.
Oh.
He left out of town. Karros is in town getting ready for his fight. I was supposed to fight before Karros, but then now my fight got pushed back 2 weeks. So Karros took off. Now I'm still training. So, but always mixing it up, keeping it different and pushing hard on cardio. But like Matt says, he always mixes it up and keeps the cardio going strong, whether it's in the pool or in the gym or in the strength and conditioning room.
What what does it mean when you say this is the longest training camp you've ever had? Because you're a guy that's always in the gym. You're not a guy that goes home and sits around. You may not have a fight scheduled, but you're still working out. So when you say this is the longest you've had a really long training camp, is that just because of timing, because the way the fight kept getting pushed, and that's the reason why? Or did you make a conscious decision, I want to be in camp a little bit longer, be a little more disciplined?
Well, when Bibiano came down, I already knew I was fighting Joseph. Like we're already in talks of the contract and stuff for November 30th. So I think Bibiano came out. His fight was October 10th or October 1st. So I remember Oktoberfest came down the PL Fair. I wanted to go down there and get drunk, but I didn't because Bibiano was there, and I wanted to be a good training partner for Bibiano. And I was like, you know what? Since Bibiano's going to be here, we'll start training, work on my ground game. Joseph Benavidez does not have a ground game like Bibiano Fernandez, so we'll work with Bibiano. Then, in mid camp with Bibiano, they're like, okay, the fight's set in stone, and so right there and then there's 10 weeks out from there, then it almost kind of got pushed back a little bit more. So it made it almost like 12 weeks. But when I look at the calendar, it was like 15 weeks or 14 weeks, something like that, to where it was like just long, and my body starts to break down, so I got to switch it up with the cardio and the training wise. So
And how are you feeling now? Like I mean, I was making fun of you before we started interviewing. You don't look like you've worked out at all. I mean, because you obviously didn't have your shirt on. You were getting your morning shake, and you stood up, and you're in great shape. Like I mean, you look at the best shape I've seen you. this far away from a fight. Like, it almost looks like you could fight tomorrow morning. You know, it's one of those situations where your body's already there mentally. 15-week training camp, you switch stuff up to kind of keep your body fresh. But what have you done mentally to kind of keep your head fresh?
You know, for me, mentally, I never think about the fights. Like, I'm at the gym, and people are like, oh, man, you're about to fight Joseph. I'm like, oh, yeah, just another fight, you know? And for me, I just don't think about, like, I tell people all the time, like, if you walk in my house, you won't see one thing about fighting. You won't see no posters, no, not my belt, no gloves, nothing. All you do is see family pictures. And when I'm at home, I have to think about family, get my mind off fighting. And when I'm even in the gym, you know, I work on myself and try to become the best martial artist. And that's what Matt tries to push on me all the time. Like, he says, you know, being a UFC champion is just a small token of, you know, being a great mixed martial artist. And, you know, we're striving to be the best fighter in the world. Not just in the octagon, but, you know, in the gym as well.
How's sleep been with the baby in the house? Has it been
Oh,
difficult?
man. You know, when we first got him, after my last fight, you know, he had to adjust, but now it's amazing. Like, he sleeps 9 hours through the night, sleeps in his crib, and he's good. He just started rolling over, and he rolled over the first time in his crib, and I just looked at him. He's still on his stomach sleeping. So me and my wife were having a heart attack last night. Well, she was. I was asleep.
There, for most people that don't have kids, they don't realize that young couples, first timers, usually have their firstborn sleeping in the room with them in their bed, which causes bad sleep patterns because he or she, the child, is always in the middle, always in the way. You're scared of rolling over on him, the whole bit. You put him in a crib, like he's in his own crib in a different room, or in his crib in your room.
He's in the crib in his own room right now.
Perfect. That is that. You know, advice from a father as well. The best thing you can do is allow, because your wife. I know how hard you guys work together as a couple. I know how hard it is for you to be gone training all day and she has to take care of the baby all day because that's just how the schedule works out. She
Yeah.
needs sleep too, and she can't sleep if the baby's in the room. Like, she's gotta unwind too. You know,
Mhm.
it's a full time job, so it's you got to put them in the other room, and that's actually good, and it gets you. You seem to be a very humble, quiet family guy. That's just the way you are. Having the baby come in the household, I didn't think personally was going to disrupt you as much as it would some other fighters who aren't as humble, who aren't as selfless, aren't as giving towards their family. It would disrupt them a lot more. But I still was worrying about sleep patterns, and because your energy level. Let's be honest, Mighty Mouse, you're on crack. Like, your body just functions like that. You just go all day. And I was waiting for that crash to happen, and it never really seems to happen. Is it tough coming home from practice and being Matt just destroyed me, but I want to play, and you just don't have the energy, or do you still have that energy when you get to the house too?
You know, there's times I come home and I'm just totally exhausted. You know, my wife's been with Tyron all day, and you know, I'll go upstairs, take a shower, I'll come down and I'll pick him up, and you know, and I'll hold him and I'll play with him as much as I can. And then, you know, when my biceps get tired or my neck gets tired, I'll try to sit down with him, and he'll I want him up, but. I try to do my best, and you know, my wife's still there at night to even help me if I need help to keep him entertained. But you know, as things get better after this fight, you know, when my body's not as sore, I can, you know, play with him a lot more. But now that he's so independent, like he gets his own man time where he wants to be on his back, he'll roll over, and then I just sit there and look at him and all that stuff. It's good. But I think when it comes time to where he's actually like, all right, Dad, let's wrestle, and I'm like, oh, that's got the wrestling 5 hours ago, and then Daddy get a day break and we'll go at it. So.
All right, that's it's neat to see how it adapts, how households adapt once there's a child in the house, and how couples have to adapt themselves in training, and especially with athletes. Like, it's a whole household. Like, athletes are used to, hey, it's my household, the whole household's on my diet, the whole household's on my schedule. Oh, baby's here. Okay, the whole household that was on the baby schedule. It's like, how do I do that? I can't function. So yeah, it's very difficult. Well, let's break down Joe
I
B.
agree. I agree.
Let's break down Joe B. in that fight coming up here. It's going to be in Sacramento, so you kind of go into his home territory. Alpha male guy, you know, he bounces around a little bit for his training camps, but how do you see him as a fighter, and what is he different at doing than anybody else that you've faced so far in a title fight?
I think Joseph Benavidez, he has an unorthodox style. And what I mean by that, he throws punches in weird angles that catches people, you know, in the back of the head right here, and he lands on the chin most of the time. You know, I think with John Moraga and John Dotson, they throw straighter punches. Um, they're both very athletic. So I think they all have good wrestling. So I think Joseph has an unorthodox style. He also has that he can mix it up and he can switch from southpaw to orthodox at will, like I can. And Joseph's a great fighter.
Where is he the most dangerous?
I think Joseph's dangerous everywhere. Obviously he has that guillotine choke. Lately he's been knocking people out, which is that's very good. But I still think that guillotine choke that he used, that trademark guillotine choke from Team Alpha Male, is his dangerous submission.
What do you think that he's improved on the most since, let's call it the last year, basically when Dwayne Ludwig got up to Team Alpha Male? What do you think is the biggest improvement you've seen in Joseph? Because I know you're watching tape on him, so you've seen the jumps in his game. What do you think he's improved in the most?
I think it's him just going out there and it looks good, and him just being able to connect everything together. That's one thing he was, when we talked previously in the past where Dwayne Ludwig got there, is that, they didn't have, a coach or anything, which is, sometimes you got to look at it, it's not their fault they didn't have a coach. It's his fault that he stayed there when there wasn't a coach. Not that it's a bad thing, like I trained in a gym where we didn't have any coaches. Our coach was an Alaskan airline pilot, and that was up in Kirkland, and we're training Auburn, which is very, very far south from Kirkland. And it came to a point where, I needed to be with Matt full time. And, I made that decision, and I drive 45 minutes every day to be with Matt. So, but yeah, that's the difference I see.
All right, well, it's what's your weight like? Last question before I get you out of here. What's your weight like right now, and how tough is it going to be to make weight now with this long training camp? You seem to be a lot lower than normal, but are you lower or are you more muscular and a little bit heavier?
I think I'm lower. It's hard to say. Like I woke up this morning, I was 141. I had a good dinner last night. I had some collard greens, had some sweet potato jam. What else I have? I had a good dinner last night. So when Tyron was being born, I was weighing 138, and I was like 9 or 8 days out from my fight. So I'm still good. I'm getting a gallon and a half of water down a day. My cardio feels good. Everything feels good. Just making sure I'm staying healthy for this last week. Don't get sick, and go out there and do my best.
Thanks, Demetrious, for coming on here with MMA Oddsbreaker. It's a very exciting fight, and I am trying to find a way to get up to Sacramento to watch it live. Hopefully I can pull it off. It's going to be, to me, this is one of the better fights. This is probably a top 4 fight for me for the year of all the fights that have been together. And that, for me, this fight matches up with Weidman and Silva Part 2 because of the action. I like both of you guys outside the ring. I like both of you guys inside the ring. And I like how both of you guys run your training camps outside of it. So for me, it's a great fight to watch 2 great guys compete that are the new school. When fighting first started for me, we got to hate everybody. You have to hate everybody you fight. You guys don't have an ill bone in your bodies, and at the end of it, it's just like, okay, all right, great fight, and it's really going to be honestly a great fight to watch, start to finish. But the ending's going to be even better because at the end of it, both you guys are just going, okay, next fight. Like when we start training camp again, it's just what we do, True martial artist, like you said, Matt, he was trying to make you. True martial artist. Exactly.
And I still trying to push everybody. If it was like, if they were like, hey, Demetrious, if you were to lose this fight, you can never train mixed martial arts, never again. Then my outlook on this fight would be totally, completely different. Like I'll be stressing, all that stuff. But just like you said, if I lose this fight or even win this fight, and take a little time off and get back in the gym and keep on improving as a fighter and get ready for the next one.
I love it. Can't wait, DJ, to see this fight. Good luck, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
See ya.